One of the more interesting things that I've discovered during this whole 1,000+ days of squatting is that I have different periods where I focus on different things, and I've done that for basically the length of this journey. And what I've picked up on is this difference between what drives my front squat and what drives my back squat. And you would think that these two things are closely related, but in my experience, they're not really super related. The more interesting thing is that the front squat drivers are the posterior chain accessory movements focus. So when I hit that 182, when I hit the 180, 175 squat PRs, basically that was after a period or during a period where I was heavily focused on posterior chain stuff. Block pulls, rack pulls, deficit pulls, lots of GHD, back raises, 45 hypers, that kind of thing always made me feel more comfortable in the front squat. It's weird, right? Like you think front squat and you think to yourself, okay, it's more front chain. So like your anterior core, your quads, hip flexors, ankles, tibialis anterior, all the things which require you to stay upright. That's kind of what makes you a good front squat, and not so much the posterior chain stuff, because the posterior chain stuff, automatically you think to yourself, okay, anytime I lean over, that's when the posterior chain kicks in, but it's not really. It's all about where the weight is positioned and how far away it is and what direction, orientation it is from your center of mass. So with the front rack, the bar is in front of you. So what does that automatically entail? Well, fighting the forces which are gonna bend you forward, right? You know, your thoracic spine wants to collapse when the bar is resting on your collarbones. So automatically thoracic extension. But what happens when you go into the hole? What happens there? Well, you know, when the weights get heavy, there's an inkling, at least in my case, that you want to lean a little bit forward, because that's where the powerhouse of the pushing aspect of the movement is. You want to engage the glutes, you want to engage the adductors, and a bit of lean goes a long way, for me at least, to making that weight up. However, every degree that you move forward, that you lean forward, makes it like 10 times worse for the upper back. So there's like this yin yang thing. And so every time I did posterior chain work, like rack pulls or block pulls or deficit pulls, anything with the bar in my hands, RDLs as well, trains a lot of the posterior chain. And when I say the posterior chain, I'm talking about from the heel to your neck, everything, because the bar is really ahead of you. Even more so ahead of you than the front squat. The front squat's kind of like ahead of you, but it's near the midline. With a deadlift, pulling motions like that, you know, block pulls, things like that, the bar is actually quite far away from you, especially when you're kind of getting across that knee region. So what does that train? Well, that trains everything that you need for the front squat. The front squat is kind of like the bar's closer to you, but it's still in front of you. So traps, lower traps, lats, like all of that upper back business gets trained simply by doing a block pull or a deficit pull. And so when I go back to the front squat, I feel like I've trained those muscles and I can move. I feel more comfortable in the hole in the front squat. But that doesn't necessarily transfer over to the back squat, which is the weird, ironic thing. With the back squat, the forces are not so much trying to bend you over, you know, thoracically round you. For me, it's always been about how much can I push with my legs. And so if I train my quads, really get after my quads, like in the recent times, you know, the last 3 months, I've heavily focused on bodyweight squats, getting that quad pump, you know, really focusing on that, Hindu squats, all that kind of stuff. And what does that lead to? 31 freaking days of hitting 200 kilos in a row. So it makes me feel comfortable in the back squat, but during that period, I didn't feel all that comfortable with the front squat. I always thought to myself, man, I'm hitting 200s like crazy with the back squat. Surely the front squat's gonna feel somewhat good. It didn't. Now, of course, there's a factor of, well, I'm tired, really fatigued every single day hitting these top weights. But the feeling, even with 100 kilos, didn't feel good. Like it's hard for me to explain that, but it never kind of feels as good. Even sitting in the bottom of a front squat, I feel like I have better range of motion when I do 45 hypers, when I do GHD back raises, something that really pumps the blood into the glutes, into the hamstrings, into those adductors, into those pulling muscles. I feel like I can hit the hole better. My mobility improves. And we can go back to like freaking day, whatever it was, like 500 or whatever it was. When I first moved into this house some 2 years ago, I was doing like 20 sets of 5, 10 with like 40 kilos on the deadlift, right? Lots and lots and lots of reps, sub maximal reps, just in the deadlift. Basically training that same set of muscles, the posterior chain, without any fatigue, just warming them up. And then as soon as I put the bar on my back, I feel like I have this good range of motion. I feel comfortable in the bottom of the squat when I put the bar on my back. So it's kind of, I'm sure there's a relationship there, but it's something that I've kind of felt. And I'm doing front squats now this whole week, trying to wash away some of this fatigue. And I don't feel comfortable. It's really weird. It's like my body's gotten accustomed to doing the back squat, but the front squat kind of is lacking. I don't know. Maybe it's because of the rows. Maybe it's because the upper back is to a degree taxed. I'm in that training hypertrophy kind of cycle for the upper back. So maybe I've lost a bit of, strength there, top end strength for that. I don't know, but it's just interesting. Today I decided to hit the posterior chain. So I warmed up my knees and whatever with the Hindu squats and did my front squats. And then I went over to deadlifts, worked up to 240, and then I did some rows. And man, I can tell you, man, I'm not very good at posterior chain right now at all. I haven't trained the glute hamstrings basically this whole year properly. So doing rows taxes me, but doing deadlifts before rows, my Lord, man, it's just so taxing, man. Absolutely wasted. And this is, goes back to the same conversation of, where do you put rows in? If you're deadlifting, how do you keep up with the rows? I understand why people don't do rows. I don't feel comfortable doing deadlifts and rows. Felt very, very fatigued. I'm actually quite drained right now. And you also, have to, understand that I'm off a night shift as well. So I've come off a night shift, no food for whatever hours, man, like more than 12 hours. Straight up, go to the gym. I actually had ideas of, this is how foolish my mind is sometimes. I wanted to go to the gym, do my front squat, that's fine, nothing crazy. Do the deadlift, do the row, and then like go over to a machine where I can do some like chest supported rows. Foolish mind. And after, I barely got through the 5 sets of 10 of rows with 80 kilos. Spent, man. Absolutely spent. It's unreal. And this is why I probably don't feel so comfortable with the front squat, because clearly I've deconditioned my posterior chain. And it's ironic how that works. Like, you'd think that all this quad work would make my front squats feel mint, but they don't. It's like the opposite. It's like a crisscrossed up thing. Quad work makes my back squats feel good. Posterior chain stuff, like, what I mentioned, back raises and deadlifts and all that stuff, makes my front squat feel really good. It just makes me feel comfortable in the hole. It makes me comfortable with the thoracic extension. It's just interesting. It's interesting how, the two lifts, differ so much, which is why I think a lot of people, man, they have like a whatever squat number, back squat, and their front squats are like horrible. They think to themselves, why can't I freaking squat? Let me tell you, man, it's got nothing to do with your freaking quads, man. It's got, like, front squats are so deceiving. I'm telling you, man, like, front squats are more about your back. And not even the upper back, the whole back. Because you need to basically extend every portion of your back to have a good front squat. Everything needs to get extended. You need to extend your lower back, your mid back, your upper back, everything is, because the bar is in front and it wants to collapse you. So if you were to do like whatever, rows, GHD, back raises, 45 hypers, snatch grip deadlifts, every which way deadlifts, you will actually feel more comfortable doing front squats. It's not the quads. So if you're interested in doing, improving your front squat to whatever level you want, think back. Because if you have let's say you have a squat of 200 kilos, you have a degree of pushing power. You've got the horsepower to push the weight up. What you don't have is the stability above those quads. The back, your spine is not fit to maintain that position, which we require in the front squat, and that's the trouble. So if you think to yourself, I need more quads, no, you don't. If you've got a 200 kilo back squat, you've got plenty quads. You need upper back. You need upper back. Basically, that's the thing. Like the rest, the whole back, but specifically you need the upper back, because that's the killer there. And this is something that I continuously kind of get reminded of. It makes me think right now, if you solely go after the front squat, I see your deadlift going up, I see your front squat going up, and yes, to a certain degree, your probably back squat is going to go up as well, but it's not going to feel as good, because when you're training the front squat, you're not training maximum weights for your quads. You can tolerate more weight with your quads when you put the bar in different places, but when you're doing front squat training, it's basically spine training. That's literally what I think about. So that 160 today, the front squat, my quads are far more capable than freaking 160, man. I've been hitting 200 for 31 days in a row, right? It's the other stuff. It's the upper back. It's that, people talk about thoracic extension. It's maximal thoracic extension. It's not just some sort of, no, you got to be locking in those muscles. The erectors, the rhomboids, the what do you call them? The traps, the lower traps, like that all needs to be fully extending your chest. So chest out, whatever the muscles are required for you to maintain a chest out posture, that's the front squat. So that's how you think about it. How strong am I maintaining my chest up? Kind of like the bench press. What are those muscles? Yeah, those muscles, the bench press muscles, which help you bench press, also going to help your front squat in a weird way. That might not make sense, but because when you bench press, you are sticking your chest up towards the bar. Exactly how we do with the front squat. And some. The front squat really challenges the hell out of even more muscles, the erectors and whatever. It's not just scapular retraction and depression. It's like extension as well of the upper back. So this is kind of my realization. So it's kind of like, no worries. You can go after your front squat, train the spine, but while you're getting after those front squats, also train the quads through some accessory means, because you're not taxing it enough with front squats, as weird as that is. So a lot of guys will be like, oh, you want to train your quads? Do front squats. Not for me, man. Maybe that shows you my weakness to the upper back. I don't know, everyone's different, but that's my experience. When I think about front squats, it's spine day. I'm training my spine. What does that even mean? Everything that belongs around, from my neck all the way to my coccyx, all of that. That's what the front squat taxes, because the bar is in front of you, man. The bar is in front of you. Basically, that's kind of how I think about it. It's weird. Anyway, I survived. I'm gonna sleep like a log tonight. Night shift, no food, tough workout, only freaking 3 exercises. Well, I did some warming up business as well, but really 3 working exercises, and I'm spent. Tomorrow I'm gonna try and hit some quads, Hindus, and then front squat, and that's it. Today is the heavy day, because it's the spine day. But I'll continue doing this type of kind of combo until I wash away the fatigue associated with back squatting. Once I kind of wash away all of that business, then I'll head back into back squats, and I'll try and ramp up. I'll try and get good with the back squat muscles, which is basically the anterior chain. As weird as that is. Appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.